So why is it more complicated to make sourdough in El Salvador than, say, Canada? Well, I'm going to walk you through the journey from making a starter from scratch to the finished product. And you can see how I had to adjust by living in El Salvador with the humidity, the climate, the flour, and the price of flour, among other ingredients. So come along on our journey and see how we make it in El Salvador. Okay, so a lot of people have been asking me to do something with sourdough. So I'm going to start with the very beginning because I left my sourdough starter in Canada and I hadn't made one since because I didn't have a good supplier of flour, and you need to keep feeding your starter. And in the grocery stores, you usually just get the 1 pound bag for like $5. And I found a place to get 25-pound bags at a time, or any pound size you want. Actually, 20 pounds fits in these containers perfectly. So there's between 65 and 75, something like that, cents a pound. And that's pretty economical. So that's the best I found so far in El Salvador, but I will be traveling around other baking supply stores. So we start with our very clean container. I just washed it. It's drying. And a cup of water and a cup of, I'm using just white flour right now. I want to get my sourdough started before adding in my whole wheat flour. I find this gives the best chance to get it going without any complications. So all we have to do is measure out a cup of flour. Now, I tend to not throw my sourdough starter away as we are, you can be very precise if you like, or not, because I use it for making pancakes. I know a lot of people, they say throw it out and then feed it again. I don't do that. That's why I have it in a very large container so I can continue adding to it. And I use 2 cups to make pancakes. So I need a good amount to be able to make the pancakes. So I keep it in this gallon-sized jug. And if you have a funnel, even better. And then you just add water. This is very simple. It's flour, a cup of flour, and a cup of water. And that's all you need. And you need to stir it well. And then we come back every day and we feed it a bit more. Now, I probably will only feed it half a cup at a time. Half a cup of water, half a cup of flour. Now, I never made this in El Salvador. We have a lot more humidity here. So it may require a bit more water. I will keep you posted as we go along this adventure of making sourdough starter and eventually sourdough bread. Now, in Canada, I rarely made, I think I did once at least one sourdough loaf. Like I said, I usually use mine for pancakes and pizza crust. That's the other thing I would make with it. Now, I don't have my pizza stone here. Well, I do. I had it. It broke. So, unfortunately, stoneware in El Salvador, I don't know. I'll keep shopping around, see if I can find it. But I had a Pampered Chef brownie pan, which I really, 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 really loved. And I would use it. It was rectangle, fit in my stove perfectly in Canada. I had a big flat pizza stone one time. It was too big for the oven and it had no lip on it. And when you're making a sourdough pizza crust, you need to have a lip on it because it's going to be as runny as this. But I would make pizzas and sourdough pancakes all the time. And that is how I use my sourdough starter. However, I'm going to attempt to make sourdough bread here. I usually just make regular sandwich bread, but we will attempt the sourdough bread too. So I want to make sure that I had nothing, no clumps of flour at the bottom and nothing stuck on the sides. And we can use the spatula to push it down. And when we come back tomorrow, we'll see if it has started bubbling. Again, it's hotter here and more humid than in Canada, so we'll see how that takes shape. And the other thing I wanted to share with you, I have these from Canada. I got them from Amazon. And they're little vents. You can see it opens up there. That allows the gas that the air bubbles make to escape. If you don't have one of these, that's fine. You just need your ring and a piece of cloth. It could be cheesecloth, piece of cotton. Doesn't make a difference, but you have to have a way to get the air out. If you do decide to put this on, then I would suggest you do not screw it on tightly. Keep it out so you can see it. Every time you walk by it, open it up a bit, let the gas out. This is how I ferment my vegetables in Canada. Whether it's peppers or, whatever, homemade salsa, I'd ferment them. And I would put a lid like this on. And then every day I would go and I'd twist it, vent out the gas, turn it over a couple times, put it back down, vent again if I have to, and then let it go for about 2 weeks that way. So you could do that. It's just a bit more of a pain. So it's easier to get one of these or a piece of cheesecloth. Any type of cloth would do. Don't use paper towel though. So just put that on and screw on the lid, and it's good to go till tomorrow. Now I'm going to set mine here. However, if you do not have this larger container and you're starting in a smaller container, I would recommend you sit your jar into a bowl, because if it starts to bubble up and you're not paying attention, it can ooze out the top. So if you have your very short jar, I would stick it in a bowl for now. But right now we're good. Once we get up a little higher, I'll probably start using it for pancakes, or I will put it in a bowl to make sure it doesn't ooze out. Because I've had them come up even in a big jar like this, when it's pretty full and it's really active, I've had it come out the top. So protect where you're putting it. You know, you don't want that on your countertop, especially if they're wooden or something like that. Today is day 2 of our starter. And as you can see, there is a liquid formed on top. That's the hooch. It's separated because it is telling me it is very hungry. So we're going to feed it, this time, a half a cup of flour with a half a cup of water. Got my handy dandy spatula. And the goal is not necessarily how much of everything. It's the consistency of the mixture once we have it all mixed. If it's a little too dry, add a little more water. If it's a little too wet, add a little more flour. That's the name of the game here. Sometimes when the hooch is there, it actually makes it more liquid. So you might want to add a little more flour to get the right consistency. Just make sure you get your flour incorporated onto the sides of your jar. Now I'm finding this is a little more runny than I would like. So I'm just going to add a little bit more flour. Maybe about a tablespoon. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Scraping the sides. Definitely is thicker now. Again, it doesn't have to be an exact science, but if you notice every day, like I did today, that your sourdough is hungry very early on, and then it's okay to add a little more flour each time. We have warmer climate here than in Canada, and we have more humidity, so you got to be a good judge of your own starter, but if you've never done it before, you don't know. So that's why it helps to experiment. I'm going to scrape down my sides again. I still got some flour on my spatula at the top here that did not get incorporated very well. There. As best we can, and we'll continue to grow it. So we're just above the word mason now on our jar. And we'll keep growing it for the whole week. This should fit if I only do about a half a cup. And then we'll be able to make some pancakes with the discard, because I'm not discarding any of this. Once I have the discard in my pancakes and I'm reducing the amount, you know, back to about that amount, then it'll be ready for baking bread. As long as we can see it's bubbling and it's active, and you know, we use up a lot of the discard and then feed it again, the next day should be ready for bread in about a week. Okay, here we are on day 3. I'm not going to really get on camera. I'm wearing a sweater. I'm so cold here. It's almost bedtime, so I'm not camera worthy right now, but as you can see, we've had this separation again. This time there's foam on top, and the foam, I don't know if you can tell, is all bubbly in there. Starting to take a bit of a sour smell. So I'm going to add our half a cup of flour and our half a cup of water. And we're going to give that a stir. and scrape down our sides. And it's still staying very foamy even after this stir. So this is a good, healthy starter. You can definitely start to smell the fermentation happening here. So even after stirring, you can still see bubbles in there. So it's going very well. So we've arrived at day 4. And again, our starter is very hungry. So I will again feed my half a cup of flour with my half a cup of water. And stir. It smells very sour now. There are lots of bubbles in it. Yeah, it's definitely developing very well. We are about 1,000 mils. I guess that's what that is. Halfway up. About a half a gallon. Put our lid back on. We're not at risk of exploding, I don't think. But it's good to have the vent on. I'll set it back here. So it's day 5. And I see a lot of hooch on this. It might be getting too hungry. So I will feed the flour. And then we'll see how much water I can add. And maybe I'll throw in a bit more flour. Still smells good, but I don't want it to get too hungry. So, let's see if we can stir it up without adding more water, because it's very liquidy seeming. And it still feels pretty runny, and I haven't added any water. Oh, lots of bubbles are coming though. Like I just energized it, but it's very runny. So I'm going to skip the water this time, or maybe I'll put the half a cup in and then we'll see. So I already put 1/2 in. Let's put the other half in. Just because my starter seems to be very hungry. And this is something you have to do based on your climate, your temperature, the type of flour you have. It is very personalized. It's hard to kill the starter, but you have to kind of see its clues to know how to read it. And because there was so much hooch on the top, and it came on earlier, I noticed it was there early this morning. So it's gone a lot of the day fasting in a way. So it is still liquidy enough. I'm not going to add any more water. And just make sure I get all the flour off the sides of the container, so there's no big chunks. And again, I'm just going to push it down with my spatula. We are nearly at, I guess we're at 1,100 mils right now. And it's very, very bubbly. You can see lots of bubbles. It's still alive and kicking. Put our vent on again. If you ever have fruit flies in your house and you have a starter, keep an eye on it, because fruit flies love the fermentation smell, and you open it up, they'll be inside it before you know it. Okay, did not use our water today. So do you remember yesterday, which I think was day 5, where I did not give my starter any water, and instead I just fed it because it looked very hungry? Well, I think it's paying me some revenge or something. Because today when I walked by, I'm like, ooh, that's really bubbling. It's very close to the top. And I ran and got a plate, and now it's been sitting all day. I'm glad I had a plate, let's just say. So here is my starter. A bubble and an over there. It's yeah, it's extremely healthy. It's it's gassy, you know, like a little burp there. And I'm gonna have to rinse it outside the container, but it is very lovely, very active, and very much alive. Very, very much alive. So I'm not gonna feed it today. I think I'll just clean it up and leave it on the counter one more day because I want to make pancakes tomorrow, which is Friday. And if it's down a bit in the morning, I will put a little bit more flour in. But right now, there's not really a lot of room. And really, it's just looks like it's to here, and the rest is all foam. Obviously, it was a little higher yesterday, but that might be in the plate right now. So it only looks like it's here, so it's not quite enough for pancakes right now. But it is very much alive, and we are going to have some great sourdough bread with this. I probably will be able to start the loaf on Saturday sometime. We're going to get some raw milk on Saturday, so we'll see if I get time to start it on Saturday and then bake it on Sunday. Or I have to maybe start it on Sunday and bake it on Monday. One of those two things. So, yeah, it's it's it is a very sloppy mess right now. So I'm gonna clean it up. Yeah, I'm gonna rinse this off. I can't really use this because it's gotten hard and sitting out, and I don't know. We have ants. We have bugs. I don't want to find out there was something living in here, so I'm just gonna rinse this off right now. Okay. She had a shower, and I mostly got it off the outside, not completely, but it's very sticky on the outside. But you can see just by putting it in the water, moving it around, it's already gone down to kind of where it was. It doesn't have any hooch on it, so I don't think it's very hungry. But when I get up tomorrow, if I notice that the hooch has come back, I'll put a little bit more flour, maybe flour and water, because I do want to use some of it tomorrow. So I'm going to put it back on its plate, just in case it decides to get active again. And I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, so I just fed my sourdough starter another half a cup, and for some horrible reason, my camera was not recording. I didn't add the water because it's still very wet. When I went by it this morning, it had a little bit of hooch starting. When I put the flour in and stirred it, it was still quite thin. So I decided I would not add the water, but we're going to bake some bread tomorrow, so I wanted it fed and ready to go. So, although you missed all the excitement, I'm telling you what happened. So, ready for tomorrow to start our bread. We are back in the kitchen, and we are going to make our bread. Now, it is very late Sunday night. It needs anywhere from 8 to 12 hours to rise. So, I am going to leave it go overnight so that I can bake it tomorrow. It'll do one rise, and then I'll put it into pans, and I'll do another rise for several more hours. So, it probably won't be till lunchtime or later before it actually gets turned into bread. And this recipe calls for an enormous amount of flour, 8 cups. I'm hoping my mixer's okay with that idea. We will find out. I may have to be doing this by hand because I normally only put about 6-ish cups of flour in my mixer and it's fine. But I don't know about 8. We'll see. It may not require 8 if the mixture's too dry. It all depends on the moisture. So I'm, like I said, going to do this in my mixer. Now, I brought this from Canada, but I believe I have seen these in the stores here, either PriceSmart or somewhere else. I tend to always check my stuff before I use it. I see I have a very tiny spider in here. I'm just going to give this a rinse. So this recipe calls for 1 cup of my starter. And I did feed it again another half cup last night because I knew I couldn't do it on Saturday, so it is still very, very bubbly. And the most important part, wow, that is such a strong smelling yeast. It was like I opened a pint of beer. Wow. So we're going to get all these ingredients mixed first, and then we'll add our flour slowly. Starting with our cup of starter. Yeah. Even in the cup it's all bubbles. Okay, so starting with the cup of starter, get every last drop of it. I got this recipe from Farmhouse on Boone. That's actually how I started doing all my sourdough. Like I said somewhere in one of these videos that I never really made sourdough bread in Canada, maybe once or twice. But I used my sourdough starter to make pancakes and pizza crust. So amazing. So that's why I always have a large amount, because for the pizza crust it took at least 2 cups to fill my pan. Now, she mentioned cutting the butter up to make it easier to mix. I took this out of the freezer about an hour ago. It's fairly soft. Although I gotta say it's not that hot in this kitchen. You can use coconut oil too, but I have salted butter to give good flavor. Just do that. Our next ingredient will be a tablespoon of salt. And 2 tablespoons of honey, or sugar, but I always use honey. When I bake my regular bread, I use olive oil instead of butter. But, you know, olive oil, butter, coconut oil, all those are good fats. Could all be used. And we add 2.5 cups of water. I'm going to use it to sort of clean off my measuring spoon here. Or sometimes I like to just mix the honey here right in the water. Try not to waste. And my normal loaves of bread, for 2 loaves, it's 2 cups of water. So this is a bit more water and a bit more flour. So if nothing else, this should be a little bit bigger than my normal loaves because it has more ingredients. Get my butter down there. My water was just tap water temperature, which for us is kind of warm. Well, it's lukewarm. It's not cold water. Don't use too hot of water, you might kill your starter. So I'm going to spin this a bit and then start adding my flour. It's going to be about 10 minutes of mixing, so I don't want my mixer to overheat. So let's just start getting some flour in. I have my 2-cup measure here, which I think is too big for my spout. So I will take that off. I'll do 6, and then we will try to control how much we bring in. No more than 8, or until my mixer cries. I usually am using 6. That's not a big deal. It's very wet. Let's add another 1/2 cup. So this is still too wet. I added another 1/2 cup, so we are at 7 cups now. Still looks too wet. I'm going to add another 1/2 cup. It still feels a bit wet to me. I'm going to slowly add in some of another 1/2 cup, maybe not the whole thing. check, make sure it's not too hot. So I'd like to put the rest of this half a cup in. And that's the full 8 cups. It still doesn't look like it wants to start to pull away from the bowl. I feel like we need to add a little more flour. I'm just a little worried. I've never had this much flour in my mixer before. So I filled up another half a cup. I put some in. I need to see that it starts to pull away from the bottom of the bowl. Okay, let's add a little bit more. And a little bit more. That's a whole extra half a cup. I would definitely put less water in next time. It's looking better though. It's pulling from the bottom now. I think we're good. We'll let that keep going. So it has been 10 minutes. My mixer's getting warm. It still seems a bit shaggy to me, but let's see if we can pass the window pane test. So I took a little piece of dough, balled it up, see if I could stretch it out without it breaking. It's a little bit breaking there in the middle. It really should go another few more minutes. So I will see. My mixer's not that hot, but I'll put it on for 3 more minutes. It's on speed 2, which is the most you're allowed to do with dough. Okay, those 3 minutes are up. I don't really want to let it go any longer because my mixer feels warm. And I think we're almost there. It's pulled away most of the dough from the sides. It looks a tiny bit shaggy, but let's just see. It can't be too bad. Oh, that's pretty good. I can see the light through it and it hasn't cracked in the middle. So I'm going to call that one done. I'm going to put it in this bowl because I think it's bigger than my mixer and I'm afraid it's going to raise too much overnight. And I have a lid for this one also to keep it contained. I did put a little olive oil in this to keep it from sticking. I'm going to gather the dough, put it in, kind of swirl the dough with the oil all around the sides to try to coat the inside of the bowl. The dough is very, very soft. Very soft. I have a little dough on just sort of like the rim of my bowl here. This dough is heavy because there's so much flour in it. Oh yeah. But this is not a stretch and fold sourdough. This is a sandwich loaf. It's a little sticky, not too bad. Put it with the olive oil. Kind of spin it around there and flip it over, coat both sides. I think I add a bit to the top. Get the rest of the dough out. Yeah, it's not too sticky. I spray bottle of olive oil here. Just wash the handle when I'm done. There. And now I'll flip it around again so I can coat the inside of the bowl walls. Using my dough like a sponge. Coating the inside of my bowl with oil. Wow, it is really soft dough. Very nice. Very nice dough. Now I'll wash my hands. And yes, I did wash my hands before I picked up the dough. I think I've washed my hands 10 times so far. I'm an avid hand washer. And I like to clean up as I go too. Makes it easier at the end. Especially when it's midnight. So, catch you tomorrow. It is 10:30 a.m. and I can see my dough is at the very top. It has done very well overnight. I'm going to wash my hands I'm going to grease my pans with olive oil. These are cast iron pans, so I usually use olive oil. And we need to divide the dough in half. And sometimes it's easier if you actually grease your hands too, if your dough is very sticky. So I put a little olive oil on my hands. I usually just try to divide it in half like this. I see lots of air pockets. Seems very solid. My other bread dough usually just collapses so far. This has taken a little while to collapse. So that might be about half. Now, I know they say to lay it out. I don't want to roll it out because I did not clean the counter. So I usually just try to shape it into a loaf with my hand. I usually tuck under with my fingers and stretch out to the top, and then I'll rotate it and do the same. It's typically how I do my loaves, and I don't want to lose my smooth edge. So I'm going to put that one down and see if we divided it in half well, or if I have to steal some from the other one. I think this one might be a bit bigger. Maybe. Yeah, I think it's a bit bigger, so I'll take a little bit off. I'll push with my fingers underneath, and then rotate it sideways 90 degrees, then another 90 degrees, and tuck underneath. It's a little sticky, and I will take this extra dough, tuck it in the bottom, and kind of roll it under there. They are very sticky on top too. This is still bigger than this one. It always happens. It's impossible to get them equal. So I think I might spray the top of them a little bit just because they're sticking to the sides almost right away. And I did spray the side. If I put a little oil on top, it'll drip down to the sides hopefully and make it not stick, especially around the edges. And this one here, just around the edge where it's touching the side and the bottom and the top. This one's not even touching the top. Okay. Lost a bit of our smooth side there, but it may not look perfect, but I bet it's going to taste great. I'm just going to set mine in the oven. It's off. There's no pilot light, but I don't want to cover them up, and I don't want any bugs in there, so this is the best place for them. They're there. I'm just going to set them there for, I'll check in about 2 hours. It's supposed to be like 3 to 4 hours, but we have a hot country and it's daytime now. It might get warmed up fast, so it might get really big fast. Also, I made sure they're not too close together, because if you put them side by side, they'll stick. So I gave them some room to grow. So I'll check back with you. Okay, it's been 3 hours, and as you can see, it looks well risen. I don't want it to go any further because, as you can see, the side's starting to come out, and I don't want it to come over the edge. It'll look bad. It'll stick to the edge. So I'm going to turn the oven on now, and we're going to bake that at 375 for 45 minutes. I use my oven thermometer here because my temperature gauge is in Celsius and it's a range. So I usually just keep an eye on this. When my oven reached 375, the bread already looked quite done very quickly. So I actually turned it down a bit, and 45 minutes is too long for my oven. You really need to kind of like know your own appliances. So my timer is about to go off. Computer stop timer. Bread timer stopped on me. And my bread already looks very much done. I'm going to take it out and tap the bottom to see if I'm right. I'll take the short one out because it's very brown. So I don't want to go any longer. I don't want to burn the bread. Pops out very easily. It's hot and it's hollow sounding. It is done. it is done. And you take it out of the oven right away and out of its pan so it doesn't sweat. This one is so big. Oh, just pop right out. Ta-da. I let my pans cool there and then I put them away. I usually just either wipe them out or, honestly, they don't get that dirty. They got a bit of flour on them. I wipe it out and then put fresh oil in it because they're cast iron. Now I'm going to put butter on these. One thing about living in El Salvador is I have to keep my butter in the fridge or it would go rancid super fast. So I don't even have very much left in here, just a couple pieces. So I'll grab them with my paper towel and just kind of melt them over the top here. Whoops, already lost one. Only got a couple pieces left. I need to take a brick out. I'll grab that little guy that fell. Let him melt on top. Just gives the bread a shininess that you see with, say, store-bought bread. And it also makes the crust soft. There, pretty much melted everything off my paper towel. I guess I need to fill this dish up. It's empty. They look delicious. I can't wait till they cool down so we can cut into them. So here we have it. 2 cooled, perfectly gorgeous loaves of sourdough sandwich bread. How about we cut into one and see how that goes? That is beautiful crumb and soft and squishy. It doesn't have the hard texture of the crust of sourdough that you typically have because this is a sandwich loaf, something my kids could have for making sandwiches for school. So that's perfect. I'm going to get myself a couple pieces. Now we normally just store these in Ziploc bags. I have one available right now. God, it smells so good. I don't even hardly ever eat bread, but I want to try this because I did a whole video on it. I need to taste it too. We just try to reuse these bags every time. When it gets too yucky inside, we will get a new bag. I'm not a big fan of the crust. That's for my husband. Also, I'll leave it to him to cut the rest. Get the air out of the bag. There we go. I will cover the other one because, again, like I said, we got bugs here. We have flies flying around, so I'm going to cover this up to keep it protected. The other one's already in a bag. Obviously, it's protected. Can someone tell me why dairy is so expensive? Why is this $8? 2 pounds of butter. We have several different brands. They're always about $8. I think I need to make my own. When we got our raw milk, the lady was also making cheese. And I got some very young Salvadorian cheese since she just made it. It's very young. It was very tasty. A little bit salty. A little bit like feta, really, but it's in more of a chunk instead of pieces. That's how I'm going to have mine. So this was $3.50 for 2 of these bricks. As you can see, I've already eaten most of one. It's delicious. That's really good. I don't eat a lot of bread, but I had to make bread for my kids. They eat bread all the time. Yeah, it's really good. Try a bit of the crust without the cheese. The crust is amazing. So soft. With a little hint of sourdough flavor. It's really good. So in this video, I showed you how to build your starter and adjust it day by day depending on what the needs of your starter were, too wet, too dry. I also showed you how to adjust it when you're baking the bread by how much flour you add. If you have a really wet sourdough starter, you're going to have to add a little more flour. If it's a little bit dry, a little bit less. So you have to go by the look of your dough. It has to pull away from the bottom of your mixer. It doesn't always have to pull away from all the sides because I usually have a little ring, but it has to be able to pull away from the bottom. So you keep adding flour until you can pull it away from the bottom. And then I also showed you to adjust your oven. My oven is gas and it's very hot and it doesn't have adjustable racks. So I have to go by my experience with it. If you don't use your oven a lot, you might have to practice a little bit. But I knew even though my thermometer said it was 375, it was cooking too quickly and it was only maybe 15 minutes in. So I had to turn the oven down so that it continued cooking all the way through before it got too dark and burned on the outside. So you just have to adjust based on these conditions in your own home, in El Salvador, in Canada, wherever you may be. And my sourdough was a big hit because that first loaf only has one piece left. We still get the other one we haven't cut yet, but that one was a huge success. My daughter had 5 pieces. It's crazy. And I have to admit, I actually had 3 myself. It went very fast. So I hope you get to try this out and your family enjoys the recipe like my family has. That's how we make it in El Salvador.